Welcome to my channel, where there are interesting and equally sensational stories. Listen to today's story. I've been married for 16.5 years, and I've been with my wife for 21 years. We've had our highs and lows. When I first met her, she was the nicest and kindest woman I'd ever encountered. I actually told her she would be my wife just 2 minutes after meeting her. We have 2 children who mean the world to me. After the birth of our second child, she started becoming distant, depressed, and changed. I thought she might be dealing with depression. However, she resisted seeking help for it. She suggested couples counseling, but this was during the recession. And I was juggling 4 jobs in a side business just to barely get through each month. I couldn't afford an extra $50 a week, especially when she wouldn't communicate with me. I repeatedly asked her what was wrong, and her response was always "I don't know." Her mood would vary from week to week. Sometimes she'd be great, and other times, she'd be rude and disrespectful. Once our situation improved, I pleaded with her to attend counseling together. She eventually agreed, though I sensed her reluctance. We went to see a therapist, and I think she anticipated the therapist placing all the blame on me and instructing me to improve. But that's not how it went. Initially, the therapist echoed what I had said. I can't work with, I don't know. So my wife brought up the need for more help with household tasks. This was back in 2015. Since then, I've taken on 3 jobs. Regularly vacuumed, done the daily dishes, and sink cleaning, assisted with laundry, taken out the trash, and maintained the house's organization. There was improvement for a period. However, she reverted to being hostile again. This time, she aimed her frustration at our daughter, frequently snapping at her. At one point, I took her aside and assured her that divorce was not an option for me. I conveyed my dedication to working on our marriage until it got better. It appeared that she was projecting her negativity onto our daughter, possibly because our daughter is so much like me. I couldn't let that continue. So I told her that if she genuinely wanted a divorce, we would follow through with it. The following day, she communicated her desire to give marriage another chance. For a few years, things improved. She even consulted a doctor and was prescribed a low dosage of antidepressants, which she agreed to take. Moving to 2020, went back to being mean and disrespectful, worse. Her voice showed complete disrespect when talking to me. And she looked disgusted when I appeared. It was painful. Our bed life was fine. But she'd hold back during her bad moods. Still, I remained faithful despite getting many offers as a bartender. My sister assumed I cheated because my wife wasn't intimate for so long. I told her I wouldn't do that. Now we're here. Last month after a wedding at a hotel, I wanted to be intimate, but she said directly, "I don't want you." She suggested divorce after the holidays for the kids. She fell asleep in 10 minutes. I lay in bed crying for 3 hours, thinking it would be my worst pain. Then there's today. A week ago, she had to go to my daughter's softball team party. At midnight, she wasn't home, so I checked our Life 360 app, and she was at Applebee's. Odd, but I assumed she met a friend for a drink after. The thing is, she stayed there until 1 a.m., even though the place closed at 12. I asked where she went, and she mentioned a bar with people from the party. But never mentioned Applebee's, which was strange. 2 days later, she claimed her boss required her to set a password on her phone due to work emails. This made me suspicious. Today, her mom called and asked if I could help her husband move a rug. So I assisted. And when finished, I checked the Life 360 app to see if she had left work. She had. So I tried something. My wife tends to talk on the phone while driving, so I called her. She was brief, saying she had to go because she was on the phone with her mom, who was standing right in front of me. All right. I returned home. When she got there, I inquired about her mom and whether she had mentioned that I saw her today. She said no and asked where I saw her. I replied, "At her house when I called you." Her expression changed. She offered some weak excuses, but eventually confessed she had been seeing someone for a few months. Even before we agreed to divorce. I was shocked. 10 minutes later, she acted like nothing happened. I'm not sure if she did it to avoid alarming the kids or if she simply doesn't care about how much she hurt me, but I suspect the latter. I couldn't talk to anyone about it, as we've been keeping our agreement to divorce a secret to protect the kids. We had to go to a Christmas village tonight, so we were out all evening. My kids sensed something was off with me, but assumed I was in a bad mood. My son even said, "You sound hurt." I'm not sure what to do. Divorce was already stressful, and I lost 20 pounds in the past month, without trying due to the pressure of keeping my house while going through this. I spent 15 years paying off her debts, including $10,000 in credit card debt, $15,000 in student loans, and a $45,000 car. Now I'll owe her at least $40,000 for the house. It'll be tough, but I believe I can manage it. I was mentally preparing for the divorce, and then this betrayal hit me hard. In the past month, she's hurt me more than I thought possible. The woman I married feels like a stranger. I don't know what to do. Telling my daughter about the split will break her heart. And I'm unsure if I should mention this betrayal, fearing she'll resent her mom. I'm lost, confused, incredibly stressed and heartbroken. I look at my wife, and she appears completely indifferent. Thank you for listening. I'm not sure if what I wrote is allowed or too off topic, but I appreciate it because typing it out and getting it off my chest feels therapeutic. Even though I'm typing this with tears streaming down my face. 3-month update from D-Day. I received a lot of advice on my first post. Check my submission history to see the original story, but I chose to trust my instincts on how to proceed, and it's going decently. It's still not over, which was expected given the short time. Anyway, about a week after my post, I discovered the guy's name when she was sending a Facebook message on her computer. Apparently, that's their only way of communicating. Probably because he's married with 3 kids. He's also a wealthy doctor. That discovery really hit hard for a guy working 3 jobs just to get by. On Christmas, I found out she had informed her entire family that we were getting divorced, along with my sister and my cousin's wives. In the meantime, I hadn't told anyone yet, fearing it might reach my kids before the holidays ended. Her mom was upset, thinking she was making a huge mistake. The same went from my sister and her best friend. She, however, didn't care. Naturally, she left out the part about her infidelity. I couldn't talk to her mom during Christmas because she was already close to tears. And I didn't want to give any hints to my kids. So I arranged to talk to her a few days later. The following day, my wife and I sat down to talk. I expressed that I didn't want her to see the guy until everything was settled. I found it disrespectful. And if we were going to divorce his friends, she shouldn't treat a friend that way. She agreed. Then we discussed how we divide things. I think I did all right. No alimony, no child support, equal custody, 50.50. We both provide clothing for the kids and everything else is split evenly. I'm keeping the house, and I need to pay her $43,000 in equity. Ultimately, she ended up with around $40,000, owing her dad $10,000, an 800 credit score and no debt. All thanks to me. When I finally spoke to her mom, I learned that when she knew we were going to talk, she confessed to her mom. At first, she lied about cheating, but later admitted the truth. My mother-in-law was furious and gave her a strong talking to. Then she tearfully expressed her fear that I might cut her out of my life, which I assured her would never happen. Fast forward to mid-January. Now I've lost 40 pounds. I go to the gym daily to manage stress. Now we have to tell my kids. I told her I wouldn't lie to them, but I wouldn't just expose her either. I said if they asked, I'd try to steer the conversation differently. She felt the same way. The thing is, I knew my daughter wouldn't accept this easily. She's basically a 14-year-old version of me and can spot deception from a distance. And that's exactly what happened. Even before we could say anything, my daughter asked if we were getting divorced as soon as we sat them down. My wife confirmed it, and my kids started crying. I saw them crying, and it made me cry too. Then my wife made a major mistake. She said, "Listen. We both want this." And that's when my daughter unleashed everything she had on her. She yelled, "That's nonsense. My father would never want this. You want this. Look at him. He's crying. I've never seen him cry before. This is all on you." Then she asked if my wife had been cheating on me. My wife tried to change the topic, but my daughter wasn't having it. She kept questioning her while yelling, "Tell me the truth," repeatedly until my wife admitted to it. After that, it was like I could see my daughter's mind working. She started pointing out every red flag and forced my wife to confess more details. In just 3 minutes, she got more information out of her than I did in a whole month. Afterward, I talked to my kids separately. My 12-year-old son needed assurance that things would be all right and that changes would be minimal. Although now I can tell he's dreading when everything finally settles. My daughter told me she cried for me, not for herself. I had to be hurt because of this situation. I comforted my daughter and made her feel better. Then she asked me to make her a promise. I've never broken a promise to my kids, so she wanted me to promise that if when all of this is over, my wife loses her new house and needs a place to stay for a while, I would let her stay here. Despite everything happening, she could have asked for anything, yet she cared for her mom. I couldn't refuse. When she talked to her mom, she asked her to promise to stop talking to the guy. Unfortunately, my wife broke that promise after just 2 weeks. Since then, she's been sneaking around again, meeting him for short periods of time at places like Target. I caught her once more and we had another big argument. Once again, she agreed to stop seeing him, even though she still talks to him. Apparently, she now has feelings for him. As I mentioned, my daughter can see through her, so eventually she'll realize that my wife broke that promise. I don't need to be the one to tell her. Right now, I'm in the process of refinancing my house and my wife is searching for her own place. Her wealthy aunt is co-signing for her, so hopefully she'll find something soon. Also, there's one more thing, and I understand this might be controversial here. Yes, I have evidence. And, yes, I now know everything about this guy, but I've made the decision not to tell his wife. I'm not proud to admit it, but my motives are entirely selfish and self-centered. The truth is, if I tell her and they get divorced, my wife will have a pre-established relationship waiting for her when she leaves. A wealthy guy who, even after divorce, will still have plenty of money to take her on lavish dates, nice vacations, assist with her bills, etc., while I struggle. As much as I want to bring harm to this guy, my desire to hurt my wife is even stronger. When she leaves, her secretive rendezvous will come to an end, but his won't. They won't have the luxury of going out on dates. She'll see her role as a mere side piece. They'll only be able to meet at her place and he'll have to leave soon after. He won't provide her money because it could raise suspicions with his wife. Now that she has feelings for him, she'll witness whether he's willing to leave his wife and family for her. I'm guessing he won't, but if he does, that's his choice. He'll have to be the one with the courage to make that decision. I won't do his dirty work for him. This is what occurred with her wealthy aunt. She got involved with a married man. The wife discovered the truth and left, and she moved right in. She went from being a struggling single mother to a millionaire. This scenario might unfold with my wife, but I won't contribute to making it happen. It's been 16 months since I found out. Here's an update. If you check my post history, you'll see what happened. I caught my wife cheating after nearly 17 years of marriage. The divorce was finalized this past August. I assured my kids that their lives would change as minimally as possible, and I've stuck to that commitment. In August, we completed the divorce. She was looking for homes while still living here. She lost in 16 bidding wars. I found a house nearby that she liked. I talked to the owner and he let her have it without entertaining other offers. She wouldn't have secured the house without my involvement. Which feels good since my kids are always close by now. Never more than 30 seconds away. Our divorce agreement turned out well for me. No alimony, no child support, equal custody, 50-50. I kept the house and paid her the equity. I managed to refinance before interest rates went up significantly. Over the next few months, I rearranged and refurnished my house after dividing the furniture. I made changes, adjusted pictures, and focused on my kids. I stayed positive and continued going to the gym and working. It's been going well. I've maintained a friendly demeanor with her, which comforted my kids and helped them adapt to the new situation. She even joined us for Thanksgiving and Christmas Eve at my sister's place. People might think I'm crazy, but I let go of resentment and enabled my kids to enjoy the holidays normally. And that brings me happiness. In December, I met a wonderful and beautiful woman. She lives an hour away, divorced, and has 2 kids. Due to custody arrangements, we only get to spend time together a few times each month. Nonetheless, she's incredible and brings a lot of joy into my life. I'm unaware of my ex's dating life and whether she's still involved with that guy. I know she's had some other connections, but I don't inquire about it. I do know that one night, 3 weeks after she moved out, she went on a date and ended up getting attacked by 4 girls. I can't deny that it made me chuckle. Regarding the guy she cheated on me with, we share some mutual friends whom I've confided in. One couple who are also friends with me saw him with his family at an event and began discussing me in their presence. They mentioned that I knew about him, but hadn't taken action yet. They went on to say things like, if he decides to confront him, they won't discover that guy's body for decades. All while laughing and watching him squirm without revealing that they knew he was involved. I doubt my ex informed him that I was aware of the affair, so that might have been a surprise for him. I'm sure I'll cross paths with him eventually, but I'm not actively seeking it out. So after 16 months since D-Day, I have a new girlfriend, a strong relationship with my kids, a satisfying work life, excellent physical shape, and financial stability. I believe things couldn't have worked out better for me. For those currently going through a similar situation, here's my advice. Stay positive. Don't let resentment and negativity take over your life. You're not financially well off. Try to sit down with your spouse and come to an agreement without involving lawyers. This way, you'll have some funds to move forward with. If you have kids, make an effort to maintain a cordial relationship with your spouse. I understand how challenging this can be, but you're doing it for your children, not for your ex-partner. Engaging in regular exercise is an excellent way to reduce stress. Find a gym and start going. It'll benefit both your mental and physical well-being. Keep in mind that every situation is unique. Discover the path that suits your circumstances the best. Once they're no longer in your life, remember that they're truly gone. There's little chance they'll come back. And even if they do, it might not be in your best interest. Trust is irreparably damaged. So move forward and seek someone who truly deserves you. If you don't often meet people in real life, consider trying a dating app like Bumble. They can be effective. This update might not be as dramatic as some in this community would like, but things have turned out positively for me and my kids. That's what truly matters. I'm much happier now than I was after my initial post, and I believe that's the ultimate aim of this community. So thanks for the kindness and support. They made a significant difference. Story 2. Background. My girlfriend, Hannah, and I both grew up in a big town with almost 20,000 people. Even though we attended the same high school, we never crossed paths or talked. We only started having serious conversations a couple of years ago. After finishing college, I got a job that involved a lot of travel around the state. I requested an office in the branch of my hometown because I wanted to handle business, not just statewide, but also in my own town. They agreed since there was no other business representative there. After a few months, I established a routine of spending 1 to 2 weeks at the city office, another week in my hometown, and then 1 to 2 weeks traveling around the rest of the country. Around a year later, I decided to purchase a house in my hometown. That's when I met Hannah at a party. It was a Friday, and I had just returned from one of my trips. I was at my office checking some paperwork when Craig, who's both the managing director and a colleague, walked in. Craig and I grew up together in the same close-knit town, although we went to different high schools. However, our bond grew stronger after we returned from college. He asked how things were and then invited me to a house party he and some buddies were throwing that evening. It was a bit short notice, but I agreed because I thought having a few drinks with friends would be good. At the party, Craig introduced me to Hannah. She was a new employee at the branch where my hometown's office was located and was getting to know everyone. Since we had attended the same high school, we hit it off right away. The party went really well. Hannah got along with my parents, and her parents also approved of me. They were happy that someone could bring her the happiness she deserved, especially since she had faced relationship issues and struggled with depression in the past. I won't go into too many details, but after 2 years of dating, we decided to take the next step, and she moved into my house in my hometown. Things were great for almost a year, and then things started to change. Our FaceTime sessions became shorter, or she claimed to be too busy to answer the phone. Suddenly, neighbors began telling me about a car resembling my friend, Craig, a black Chevrolet Camaro. I was consistently noticing my car parked in the back alley near my house whenever I was away. Also, I found clothes in my wardrobe that weren't mine. These signs strongly suggested that she might be cheating, but she assured me that my suspicions were unfounded. She claimed that Craig would occasionally visit to discuss work matters, but he never stayed overnight. I chose to disregard it, thinking I was just being overly anxious. I continued acting as if nothing was amiss, but a nagging feeling persisted that things weren't quite right. Nearly 6 months later, I uncovered her lies. I had finished a significant contract with a new company and negotiations ended sooner than expected. Instead of staying away for a few days, I decided to book an early flight home and surprise everyone. After a few hours, I reached my hometown and headed down the alley behind my house, planning to enter without being noticed and surprise Hannah. Yet a part of me was curious about the mystery car's presence. As expected, a car was blocking the back entrance gate. I sat there feeling confused for a moment, considering the possibility of an oblivious neighbor parking the car. It didn't take long for me to recognize Craig's black Chevy Camaro. The tall hedge I'd planted for privacy prevented me from recognizing my own place right away. I pulled up behind his car, getting out and finding it strange that he was there so late. After all, Hannah had claimed he always left by now. Approaching the back of the house, I saw something that hit me like a ton of bricks. In my kitchen, Hannah and Craig were passionately involved with each other. My heart sank and time seemed to stand still. There they were, my close friend and my girlfriend, engaged in an intimate act on my dining table in my own house. I was paralyzed, not knowing what to do. My mind raced with countless thoughts. Was this a dream or reality? Why were they engaging in this behavior in my home? Feeling defeated, I turned and left without them even noticing. I drove for what felt like an eternity, tears streaming down my face. My sorrow quickly transformed into anger. I had a strong desire to hurt them badly. However, I was someone who rejected violence. It was then that I made up my mind to punish them both and shatter their lives. And what better time to start than now? I drove back up the alley, positioning myself far enough from my driveway to keep an eye on Craig's car. I walked to the gate, allowing me to peer into the house, and dialed her phone. As it rang, both of them glanced at the caller ID, shock evident on their faces when they saw my name. She seemed to consider answering, but they let the call go unanswered for a brief moment before resuming their previous activities. I called again, and this time, she answered while still engaged with him. I ended the call and returned to my car shortly after she called me back asking why I was calling so late. Explained that I was about 15 minutes away from home and wanted to avoid startling her when I arrived. She appeared surprised and acted pleased that I was on my way. The call ended quickly as she mentioned getting up to change. I said goodbye and hung up. Within moments, Craig dashed through the gate, partially dressed, hopped into his car and sped away. I chuckled a bit, knowing the fear they must have felt being on the brink of getting caught. I waited a while before driving my car to the same spot Craig had occupied earlier. The night remained relatively uneventful after that. It wasn't until after she had fallen asleep that I got up and headed to my office down the hallway. Sleep eluded me. I felt the need to strategize, and strategize I did for my revenge. My mother had always taught me to be a pacifist and let universal karma take its course. But on this occasion, I believe that karma could use a helping hand. I chose to enact separate punishments on both of them with the intention of completely ruining their lives. I was aware that Craig had a pills obsession, though not a severe one. He managed to keep it under wraps. I stumbled upon this knowledge by accident when I walked into his office and saw some snow. I acted as though I hadn't noticed, allowing him to hide his habit. It was a favor to him, as our workplace had a strict policy against substance abuse. A few weeks later, I had friends over, including Craig, for drinks. After making sure he was quite intoxicated, I suggested he stay the night and sleep off his inebriation until the early morning hours. I took hold of his office keys and drove to our branch office. With the knowledge that he was heavily drunk and wouldn't awaken until morning, I began searching his desk and drawers. I focused on the drawer where I had previously spotted his snow. Upon closer inspection, I realized it had a concealed compartment. When I lifted it, I made a significant discovery. I had assumed he engaged in using white snow, but the contents of that compartment were truly disturbing. He had a wide array of substances stored there. I took photographs and carefully restored everything to its original position. Prior to leaving, I discreetly placed a small button camera I had acquired from Alibaba above the door, securing it at an excellent price. With everything in place, my plan was gradually coming together. Judging by the assortment of pills in his drawer, it seemed that Craig was likely using substances at least twice a day. I had previously suggested to my girlfriend that we install CCTV cameras around our house for enhanced security. She had been hesitant, expressing concerns about cameras being hacked by scammers and other issues. In hindsight, I can understand why she had reservations about it. Before heading back to the city for a flight, I orchestrated a staged break-in by damaging the rear door of my kitchen and leaving it open. As soon as I arrived, I received several messages. My mom was clearly anxious and had discovered the broken door while visiting, prompting her to call the police. Hannah had sent me a message sounding deeply shaken and in tears. Additionally, the local police contacted me requesting a call after returning these messages. I informed the police that I was currently away on business and would be able to meet with them the following week. During my absence, I arranged for Hannah to stay with my parents until my return. I asked my dad to coordinate with a local security company to install cameras and an alarm system, making sure to get approval from the police first to avoid tampering with the crime scene. Upon returning home, I went through the standard routine of disbelief and wondering why this had happened. After thoroughly examining the situation, I had the security company's representative guide both Hannah and me through the operation of the cameras and alarm system. Finally, the question I had been anticipating arose: what if we engage in some private activities and don't want them recorded? Although she pretended to be bashful, I understood the true reason behind her question. The representative reassured us that this inquiry was quite common. He demonstrated on the home computer how to temporarily disable the recording for specific cameras we wanted to ensure privacy for certain activities. As I saw him out, I inquired whether it was possible to receive notifications even when the cameras were turned off. As an extra safety measure, he promptly returned to assist me in setting up email notifications and left shortly afterward. Furthermore, when Hannah went out for groceries, I discreetly installed the spy button cameras throughout the house. It was a fantastic situation. All I needed to do was be patient. At this stage, I reached out to legal advice groups on Reddit to seek help regarding couples laws in my country. I wanted to ensure that my upcoming plan could be executed within legal boundaries and that I wouldn't be obligated to pay any money or equity to Hannah. I had concerns about whether we were considered a de facto couple or not. I didn't want to face any unpleasant surprises where Hannah could potentially take money from me. A big shout out to the helpful individuals on Reddit who connected me with a great lawyer. The lawyer reassured me that due to our dating history of nearly 4.5 years, we hadn't lived together long enough to be classified as de facto. Additionally, the fact that I covered all the utilities for the property she was residing in and wasn't paying rent demonstrated that she lacked legal grounds to make financial claims against me. To ensure everything was secure, the lawyer drafted a strong legal document in case of any legal complications. More positive news followed as my boss approached me the next week, offering me a promotion to return to the city and lead the team. I was a part of a team, which meant I wouldn't need to travel as often and could be stationed in one location. Due to the success of the office in my hometown, they were considering having 5 to 7 representatives spend 1 to 2 weeks in larger surrounding towns, including my hometown. As part of my team, I agreed to this plan and began the process of initiating my transfer, which would take about 6 weeks. The timing was perfect, allowing me enough time to gather all the evidence I needed. Upon returning to my hometown the following week, I set my plan into motion. I asked Craig for a favor to approve 1 week of vacation for Hannah over the next 2 weeks. I suggested that she and a couple of friends could go on a short break. Craig agreed enthusiastically and congratulated on taking a significant step for the second time in my life. He even gave me a big hug. Little did he know the true reason behind my request. He also blocked out the week on the schedule for me. I requested him to keep it a secret as I wanted it to be a big surprise. I knew that if spread the news, everyone in the office would soon find out. Still, that was my plan. That evening, I informed Hannah that I had booked a tropical spa resort trip for her and 2 friends. I assured her that all expenses were covered for a week. I encouraged her to choose her friends and return to an amazing surprise when she got back. I also mentioned that I would be spending the following week in the city, preparing for a crucial client meeting and coordinating my team's efforts before flying out the next week. I explained that I wouldn't be home until the Monday she was leaving, which seemed to disappoint her a bit. However, I reassured her that it would be worth the wait when she returned. What I didn't reveal to her was that I had planned to take a 2-week vacation on the other side of the country. I mentally prepared myself for the turmoil that would unfold when she stepped onto the plane, all while savoring the initial taste of freedom. 2 weeks later on a Sunday, I flew back and started driving home. Upon arriving, I did a quick check of my house. As expected, Craig's car was parked there just like the first night I had caught them. I parked a bit away and checked the live CCTV cameras. However, I couldn't spot them anywhere. I switched to the spy cameras, including the one hidden in the bedside lamp. I discovered them in the act in our bedroom. We hadn't placed any CCTV cameras in our bedroom. I assumed she felt it was a safe spot on our bed. It wasn't a shock to me, though, as I had been consistently recording their actions over the 2 weeks of my absence. Without revealing my identity, I made my first call to the police, blocking my caller ID. I reported a suspicious person in a car lurking in the alley behind my house. I mentioned that this individual seemed to be passing something to other cars and peering into my yard, which raised concerns about potential dope dealing. I shared Craig's car description and license plate and hinted that I suspected him as the possible dope dealer. The police assured me that they would dispatch someone soon, and I thanked them before ending the call. Using a newly created email address, I forwarded all the videos captured by the spy cam, showing Craig using white snow in his office. Along with the photos from the night, I had gone through his desk to his boss. After that, I called Hannah and informed her that I was at least 10 minutes away from home. I mentioned that I was aware she was flying out the next day, but that I wanted to surprise her before her departure. Watching the footage now, I can't help but laugh at the chaos I stirred up. And I'm amazed that I didn't hear any commotion. Within seconds, Craig emerged, partially dressed, and hurriedly made his way out the back door to his car. I couldn't have scripted a more perfect scenario. Just as Craig sped away, a police car turned the corner behind me, spotted his rapid departure, and promptly gave chase. After arriving and sharing some excited moments with Hannah, We settled in for the night. While she peacefully dozed off, I found myself unable to sleep. The next day, as Hannah and her friends departed in a car, I patiently waited for a few hours before putting my plan into action. I contacted my friend who worked as a mover, and explained that I needed my place packed and relocated by Friday, offering my apologies for the short notice. We agreed on the details, including moving specific boxes to a storage facility, which he had no problem with. With the arrangement set, I proceeded to pack Hannah's belongings throughout the day. Later, the police reached out to me to inquire if I was familiar with Craig, and if I suspected him of any suspicious or pills-related activities. Our town had stringent pills laws and enforcement. I pretended to be taken aback and answered in the negative. As it turned out, the police had apprehended the suspect from the previous night with a significant quantity of illegal pills in his vehicle. A satisfied smile spread across my face, knowing that my plan regarding Craig had come to fruition. At this point, news in my hometown travels fast and secrets don't stay hidden for long. Craig faced disgrace and was swiftly terminated from his job due to the pills possession incident. That evening, I visited my parents' house and shared the story with them as well as with Hannah's parents, leaving out certain specific details. I mentioned that I was moving back to the city after a promotion, but Hannah wouldn't be joining me. Although they were initially upset that I hadn't kept them informed earlier, they were pleased that I was handling the situation maturely and hadn't stooped to their level. While my parents and Hannah's parents didn't entirely agree with my decision to cut ties with Tana, we spent the evening bonding over drinks, laughter, and tears before I returned home. As the week came to a close, I stayed busy organizing cleaners for the upcoming week, coordinating with the real estate agent to list my house for rent and handling various other tasks at my hometown's office. On Friday afternoon, after packing some of my belongings into my car, I bid farewell to my parents and embarked on the drive. I headed to Catherine's house, a close friend of Hannah's from childhood. Catherine was the only other person aware of the details involving Craig. Her assistance proved invaluable in organizing everything swiftly and efficiently. I handed over a large manila folder to Catherine, containing all the evidence I had gathered of her cheating along with a letter and several legal documents from my attorney. These documents outlined that she was under orders not to back to me and provided instructions on how to access her belongings stored in the rented storage unit. After a brief farewell, I left and drove back to the city on Sunday. I woke up to numerous missed calls, voicemail messages, and text messages. It turned out that Hannah had returned home earlier than expected. Sensing that something was amiss in town, she arrived to find an empty house with a "for rent" sign outside. Panicked, she went to my parents' place, but they shut the door on her as soon as they answered. She reached out to various people until she finally got in touch with Catherine, who had a package for her. I learned that she didn't take the news well, as evidenced by the angry texts and voicemails I received. She accused me of setting up Craig and being deceitful. I worried that she might come to my doorstep, but nothing of the sort occurred. 6 weeks later, after leaving and receiving a promotion, I found happiness and settled into my new situation.